same place. And it's weird to think how so many things in your life prepare you for these types of things. And so many people in your life have set you up to push you a little further along. You know, I remember the first time I walked into the Foundation for Economic Education at Irvington, New York, and I just was so happy because I just had an article published by them, and I was meeting people like Sheldon Richman, and I was, you know, meeting Beth Hoffman, who recently passed away, and I was in the Von Mises room, and I was like, wow, this is great. And I saw the picture of Henry Hazlitt on the wall, and those were my heroes, you know, in the intellectual side. And now I'm thinking, you know, we're all set up for some participatory action here. And your background, my background, it's so cool to be able to connect to people like this. And you're right, there are more of us here. And hopefully we'll be able to spread the word to people. Because it's sort of like punk rock. This is real underground stuff, but it's growing, you know?
Yeah, it is growing. And it is thanks to people like Mises and Hayek and Mencken.
Yeah. Hey, let's mention some websites for people if they're interested in finding information. Of course, we mentioned freekeen.com. That's a great place. Also, if they get the opportunity, one of our advertisers, I'll plug them, but it's a really neat place to go. The Freedom Book Club, freedombookclub.com, because people throw up their own, well, bad term, people toss up, people offer their own ideas. Yeah. Let me get my thesaurus out and figure out another word. Maybe I'll get a government grant. If only I had my vacation. But anyway, so they put out their ideas about good books for liberty, and it's a great place to go. There is, of course, Laissez-Faire Books and the Mises Institute and the Foundation for Economic Education. If people can go to those places, check out some blogs here and there. I think LouRockwell.com. It's great. It's a really great learning experience.
Yeah, I just had the opportunity to go to the Mises Institute and visit and meet Lou and some of the other people there, and probably a very similar experience to the one that you had at FEE.
Yeah,
it was just amazing to meet those folks, flesh and blood. And my intellectual hero is Murray Rothbard.
Oh yeah,
I really believe that if the world wasn't filled with socialists, that he would be recognized as the most vibrant and perhaps the most important thinker of the 20th century.
Yeah.
And it was just neat to be able to go there and sort of feel Rothbard's aura all around you. Is really cool.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting, even people that are not directly involved in depth in the economic analysis or the political analysis movement, you discover are backers of freedom. For example, getting the opportunity to meet F. Paul Wilson, the novelist, at the NECON convention, the Northeast Writers Convention that they have in Rhode Island. I went down because I'm a horror fan and I like writing horror stories, and I have a background in script writing. And I happen to meet F. Paul Wilson, and a friend of mine tells me, oh, you know, he's a libertarian too. I'm like, no way. And then I meet Tom Monteleone, who is behind Borderlands Press and is an author himself of numerous novels, a great author, very, very, really cool guy. They were friends. Tom used to live up in New London, New Hampshire. He left just about a year before I started my radio show up there, and then we become friends. I was just on the phone with him on Monday ordering some books. Then you find out other people that you really enjoy their work are in favor of freedom. Penn and Teller, people like Tim Minier from Firefly and Dollhouse and things like that. All these people out there, you're like, wow, this is really cool. Occasionally you get to meet them, and you say, yeah, wow, man, you're a libertarian too? Cool. So that's a nice bonding experience as well.
Yeah, it was pretty cool for me. My favorite rock group of all time is Rush.
Yeah.
And before I ever got into the politics and economics and everything, and I was like, you know, I just really enjoyed the music. And then I found out that they're pretty much all libertarians.
Yeah.
And I started listening to, you know, I had always sung along, but I actually started listening to what they were saying. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Cool.
This is incredible what they're talking about. And yeah, it's just really cool then to sort of make a mental connection like that, even though I'd never met those guys and or anything like that. It was really cool to go, wow, you feel almost another connection that makes you an even bigger fan of them, in my case.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's really, really neat. Glenn, before we sign off, I just want to mention it's kind of interesting, folks, because Glenn and I talk to each other on occasion, and there are some things that I hope we can do in the future, in addition to the audio productions and getting guest bloggers on, and we've had occasional guest bloggers in. Glenn was our first guest blogger, actually, way back, and we have a new guest blogger up there. Rokon is Dead. You can check out his stuff, and in fact, you may have already heard, if you get the opportunity to listen to our podcast, you may have already heard the podcast that I put out about Rokon is Dead. I'm going to be reading one. I'm going to be doing this after Glenn and I chat, but it'll come out before the podcast of Glenn and me. So it's sort of a time shift there, Doctor Who. But what I think I'm really looking forward to is, people know I have a background in script writing, and I'm getting very, very anticipatory of the time when we can start making our own productions, whether it's news and things like that. I know Ernie Hancock is very involved in that, and Jason Osborne and the folks down in Ohio that he's connected with. Not only news and information, but also fictional material, dramatic material. My script writing background, I can't wait. And, you and I will be talking off the air. Sooner or later, we're going to be getting to that point, and I'm very much anticipating that. So cross our fingers we can start getting into that down the line. That would be great.
Yes, it would. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be awesome. Okay, Glenn, any final words to say to people before we sign off, my friend?
I guess the theme of the show for me has been short-term pessimism, but long-term optimism. And there is hope, I believe, and I'm not saying that just as a blind emotion. I believe if you look at the situation logically, you will come to the same conclusion that I have, that long-term there's a lot to be optimistic about. And despite all the stuff that we've talked about in the show, which has been horrible in my stack of burning stuff, it sounds like a hunk of burning love. Stack of burning stuff was awful, but I believe long term that we could really be looking at a great society.
Yeah,
I truly believe that,
and quite different than the Great Society we heard about 40 years ago.
I have chosen my words a little better than that.
Hey, it couldn't be any worse than me saying people throw up ideas out on at freedombookclub.com.
Yeah, well, we'll be looking at a very prosperous society, peaceful society, without the massive systemic coercion that we're used to.
Well,
how's that?
Glenn, you've given us a feast on this broadcast tonight, and I really appreciate it, and I hope people check this out in whole, in chunks, and share it with friends, and go to your website. Again, folks, it's adventuresofcitizenx.com. There's a link over at Liberty Conspiracy. And for a while, I didn't realize it was actually misspelled, so people were probably going to some weird socialist website or something.
Yeah, it's not the same guy I heard on the podcast.
Well, yeah, what is going on? People scratching their heads. What the heck, man? So, all right, Glenn, we will be signing off, and thank you, buddy. It's I don't even have to mention people what time this is that we're actually recording this, but yeah, you're just great. You're a blast to hang out with, and I can't wait to see you. I'm going to come down and see you hopefully next couple months and see what everything's like down there.
You'll get fingerprinted.
Oh yeah, yeah. Got to think about that, man. I'll have to burn my fingerprints off. Yeah, I'll get to that.
Yeah, file them off there. Yeah. All right, man. I appreciate it. Thanks.
You got it, Glenn. Hey, you got to do our outro, okay? And it's the 40th anniversary of The Prisoner, so you need to put on your best weird British "I'm a prisoner" of the number one, and give us our heartfelt outro.
I am not a number. I'm a man.
Be seeing you.
President Obama announces the first ever national emissions limits for cars and trucks.